I'm so pleased to be here with you all today, and I'm going to just talk, and then after I'm done, I just would be so happy to take questions and talk about what's on your mind and whatever else you'd like to talk about. Right after New Year's, David Carr, who's the media columnist for the New York Times, wrote a chilling piece. He called it the great mashup of 2011. And he predicted the end of verticals and asked, what if there were no such thing as television, print, radio, the web? What if they were just one big blob of media? That was enough to drive me into hibernation for the rest of the winter. He went on to describe the setting up of an iPad for his 87-year-old father. And after it was all finished, his father looked up and said, well, everything sure looks pretty much the same to me. While Carr just may be right that we're heading into some vast, undifferentiated media soup, it's very clear that you all in this room, the edible publications, will not be in there swimming with them. Happily and not accidentally, you all exist in a separate world, away from most of this nuttiness. Your transactions are rarely vetted by disinterested intermediaries with no skin in the game, as they like to say on Wall Street. And while I can't promise that your readers are always off making yogurt or picking heirloom apples when they're not reading the edibles, they're also probably not spending all their free time on Farmville online or shooting flying creatures off a wire playing Angry Birds. I fear David Carr is right about convergence. But as an editorial consultant, I'm in and out of a lot of offices these days, and I can tell you I feel an atmosphere of modest optimism. It's so much better than it has been. The magazine business these last few years has been horrendous. The drastic loss of advertising pages, the shutting down of venerable titles, all of that seems to have slowed down a bit. There's actually an online site with the macabre name of Magazine Death Pool, which over the last few years, I hope no, you hadn't even see it, but they've shut down, which I think is good. Advertisers discovering, surprise, surprise, that readers like magazines. They like to hold the thing in their hands, and they respond to the pages they hold in their hands. So much better than the ads they've shifted to the web that we all can't click through fast enough. This is especially true when the advertiser's message is reinforced by the editorial message of the magazine. Does this sound familiar to you all? It should. The smartest publishers are adopting a brand-centric strategy, and that should sound familiar too. Nowhere is this more evident than at the recent change at the top of the country's largest publisher, Time Inc. CEO Jack Griffin, who came from a very successful run at Meredith, has brought fresh ideas and a clear-eyed management to what was only a game of slash and burn. At Time Inc., it used to be cut, 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 cut. That was their management philosophy for the last 5 years. Griffin believes that magazines are powerful brands. He believes in a diversified business model driven not just by advertising, but by marketing services that surround the brand, read magazine title, with multiple and varied ways to reach the reader. If you look around the media and marketing world, Griffin told Adweek recently, magazines have what everybody's trying to get. We have the customer. The customer has opted in. They're highly engaged in the content. Griffin believes, as all of you do, that a magazine constitutes a community of like-minded believers, and that as publishers, we are always in the business of reaching out to readers, whether your message is in print, online, on apps, at events, or through products and services. This is the direction the magazine business is going, and you all are already there. That's the great news. You make brands that stand for something, pulling both readers and advertisers under your umbrella. Though I've just met Tracy and Carol for the first time, I've been talking to them for years and not just in my head. I've always believed that the core strategy of Edible Communities was to fix the very thing that is so wrong in the magazine business, which is the erosion between the relationship of reader and magazine. Without subjecting you to an endless lecture, it's been clear that the magazine business model broke decades ago when magazine publishers, in order to compete with television, can you imagine being worried about television? Grossly inflated their readership by promising multiple readers per copy. You get what happened. Oh, we have a huge audience too, because not only just one person reads my magazine, but you multiply it by a factor of something, something, something. This was a really bad idea. I always believed it, even when I was very much in it, because it basically waters the gene pool of committed readers, and it makes you, as an editor, have to water your soup so that you have a little bit of something for everyone, but you lose the passion of that connection. This ad-driven revenue strategy works as long as advertising remains robust, but whenever the economy weakens and advertising hits a speed bump, it's a disaster. When Gourmet was closed last year, it had nothing to do with its editorial, except for their creative costs maybe, and everything to do with ad revenue. High-end luxury advertisers could no longer afford their pages, and they didn't have the base of food advertising that Bon Appetit, their sister magazine at Condé Nast, had. So they couldn't fall back on a baseline, and there was no business model. I'm not suggesting that what you do is perversely anti-trend, but in that high-tech, high-touch way, you're so high-touch, and you're prized for that. Celebrating the hyper-local, reframing the vernacular, remaining authentic, you are strategically placed. You're like the food trucks of magazines. And rather than be subject to a one-size-fits-all corporate mentality, the edibles run on individual entrepreneurship, the old fire in the belly that has always made for great magazines. The edible brand is an entry point, whether on page or online, to a movement that is, in a sense, larger than you are, which is always a great condition for a magazine. As Tracy writes, the movement is of local heroes, the farmers, ranchers, fishermen, artisanal producers who support the local food economy. The world you cover has its gurus and its visionaries whose ideas trickle down to our everyday lives through your pages. When I travel to almost any city in this country, and I go first to the farmer's market, which is to me always more interesting than the local art museum, and I see an edible publication, I pick it up and there's instant recognition. It's like looking in the eyes of a trusted friend. I've believed since the inception of Edible Ojai that the edible's local positioning is the sweet spot where readers' true interests meet an urgent and growing national movement. The very act of picking up one of your magazines or clicking on a website or attending many of your community-based events helps spread the message and connects you with advertisers and readers. And as with any movement, your readers look to what you publish to confirm their best instincts. Your magazines make them feel part of a club they want to join. You practice service journalism in the best sense. You're not showing them better ways to build a deck, but you're showing them better ways to think about building a sustainable life. I believe that readers look for magazines that reflect their interests. Is it for people like me, they ask? Which reminds me of the statue of Puck on the Puck building in New York on Houston Street, and Puck is up there many stories above the ground holding a mirror to its readers. Puck was the humor magazine that was published between 1876 and 1918. And I just love that image of holding a mirror to the world. I find that example so potent of what magazines do. Either your readers see themselves in that magazine's mirror, or they do not. It's as simple as that. What's amazing is how much you share across your many titles and your conversation with your readers, an intelligent voice full of humor, shared sensibilities, touchstones, wordplay, and gentle puns. Just opening a magazine to see that little logo that says printed it with soy ink speaks volumes about the mission and intent of your magazines. You do so many things right. I've come to think of it, what I've come to think of as the edible aesthetic has helped to change the food publishing world. I've always believed that photographs do far more than just provide ways to illustrate our pages. They are emphatic ways to tell real stories. Storytelling is what we do. The shared aesthetic of edible photography is exemplified by Carol's work. So natural, so unpremeditated, so lovely. Readers discover, along with the photographer, just what is special about how the late day light falls on a golden field of pumpkins, or the way worn hands are always holding worn tools.